Hey family, how you doing? It's your brother Ryan Medis. Got the hair looking all natural today. Excuse me. Sorry about that, y'all. So here's the thing. Um, a channel that I follow frequently, brother Tareen Rage, talked about the murder of a young black man by a Hispanic whose daughter was actually dating that young black man. He didn't want his daughter apparently close to any um, or being around any black people. Now, ladies and gentlemen, because I know this is not going to be received well, I'm going to tell you that this is something that the ancestors just keep pressing on me, and so I'm going to keep repeating it, even if it is not popular, because if blood turns away from any organ in the body, that organ dies. And if that organ dies, then it can cause the rest of the body to malfunction and maybe even get to a point where the body dies. And so black people need to understand a lot of what we call Latinos today and Hispanics, which are really the ones who like to call themselves white. But a lot of the ones with more color to them, these people are sick, just like we are. They have accepted that notion of being white over being indigenous, over being red, over being something that, according to the European mind, is less than. So they want to accept white. So they call themselves Latinos. They call themselves Hispanics. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. When they make that distinction, they are aligning themselves with the white conscious mind, that little oversoul, which, as part of its functioning philosophy, is anti-black. It wants to destroy black. It wants to destroy nature. It wants to destroy anything colored, including their mind. And so when I saw this and I knew what the response would be, I said, I need to speak a little bit on this, because it's becoming very, very clear that on the internet, at least, there seems to be this concerted effort to push black people away from everybody. To push black people away from everybody. White people ain't your friends. Hispanics can't be counted on and ain't your friends. Asians ain't your friends. It's just us. This has never been the case. This has never been the case. There has always been people who have worked for the betterment of their own group at our group's behest, or at the expense of our group's well-being, absolutely. And there's been people who have attacked our group from outside, absolutely. And Lord knows I'm not making an excuse for those companies, those businesses which have been inside our communities for decades, ran by Asians, ran by Indians, ran by Hispanics, which really look down upon us. I ain't doing any of that. Those people are wrong for that, and there will be punishment for that. But as we are building ourselves up, we can't do it at the expense of other people. We cannot do it at the expense of other people. And we have to learn as a people to hold a functioning, constructive mentality for our people, at the same time that we hold a functioning, constructive mentality for others. We can't just hate, because, and I know many, many black folks who have assumed leadership roles over the last, 3 decades, have disavowed this portion of history. Excuse me, family. Sorry about that. from the 1960s, what we did, what we were able to accomplish, that inspired people from all over the world. In fact, one of the things that is just remains brilliant to me is that Hugo Chavez, who was a composite person, he had lineage, I think, from 3 different peoples. But he identified himself quickly as a Negro indigenous. That's what he identified himself as quickly. He was African. He was indigenous first. He loved our people. And when there were communities, even not just black communities, but there were communities in the northeastern part of the United States, very cold winter back in the early 2000s. And I guess heating prices were a little bit high. Venezuela, at his direction, donated heating oil to those communities who were suffering the most. So we really have to be very careful. We really have to be very careful because, I've also said before that we are fighting a war against some very evil spirits. And I know Bobby Hemmett didn't really do a lot of talking on this. Demons were good. They were us. They were this. And I get where he got all that from. I understand all that. But at the same time, there are some very negative entities out there that are gunning for us. And because so many of these indigenous people have accepted Christ into their heart, which opens them up because they don't know the deeper reality of where all that's supposed to lead, and they're not taught it. It opens them up for possession. And a lot of the times, these people are acting as marionettes from demons, negative entities, whatever you care to call them. And so we have to keep that in mind. It's not about forgiving people or anything like that. What it is about is keeping a clear head, because it seems that there's a force working behind the scenes to push a lot of emotionally driven content at Black people at this time, as if to get us riled up and to get us away from a focus, which could result in a mass movement. Again, it wasn't just Black people who we could rely on in the 1960s. The other day I actually found, let me see if I can find it right now, this TED Talk by this brother who, let me see. His name was Curtis Austin. That's exactly what I thought his name was. He had wrote a book about the Black Panthers. Thick book, too. I went and I looked it up as soon as I found the video. And he had also been looking for a car. I'll just tell you the story that he told at the beginning of his video. He was looking for a car online, and he found one. It was in like Illinois or Iowa or something like that. And so he, prior to looking for the car, he was on a book tour. He had written this book. He was on the tour promoting the book. And he had been in Iowa, Illinois. I'm just going to say Illinois right now. So he was in Illinois in his book tour. And he, at one stop, he had run out of books. He was signing books, talking to people, and there were more people there that wanted books than he had books. And so the people gave him the money, and he said the next time when he was in Illinois, he would just stop through and drop off the books. Well, he was going to Illinois to pick up his car, And so he just grabbed a bunch of books, went to the airport, was going through, checking through everything, blah, 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 blah. And then suddenly he hears his name over the speaker. They called him back to checking. So he goes back to checking, and, he admits that it looked a little strange. Here's this guy with a one-way pass to Illinois. He has no overnight clothes, nothing like that, and a bag full of books on the Black Panthers. They called the FBI. He gets taken up into a room, and they interrogate him for a couple of hours. And then something happens a couple of weeks later. Oh, he's at his job. He's a professor, and he gets called in. His boss says, we have a problem. We don't allow felons to work here. He's like, felon? I have no felonies. Well, it says here that you have a felony. So he makes some calls, ends up at the FBI. It says he has a felony, but they don't know from where. They don't know what he did, anything like that. They tell him to call the Justice Department. They don't know. Where'd the felony come from? We have no record of anything being done. What it turns out to be is he got that felony, not from anything he did, but because of that day he was carrying them books. Because of that day he was carrying them books. Ladies and gentlemen, the Black Panthers, as he reported, isn't the group that you think they are. And I've known some of this. The Black Panthers worked with a lot of different groups. I keep telling you, ladies and gentlemen, we are the key. We are the key to all this. And it is pretty evident that they know we're the key. That the wealthy know we're the key. They have been putting it into our mind for the last 30 years. That we need to do everything for ourselves and screw it. No. I ain't for that. No. Do I think we need to build ourselves up? Absolutely. But do I think that we have to do it at an exclusion of everybody else? No. It will take some work to figure out why and how. But we were able to do great things for ourselves and help other people at the same time. We are going to have to get back to that mentality. So I purchased his book on the Black Panthers because I really want to, check out what he wrote. But don't be so quick, to throw these people away, family. Don't be so quick to do it. All right, questions, comments, concerns, leave them below. I got to get running, guys. Peace.